Welcome to the Reducing Insurance Journal. This is the data edition. This is a weekly e-journal brought directly to your inbox. To subscribe, visit ridjournal.com. In today's issue, we are going to explore the topic, the one easy step you can take to reduce your practice overhead. You can also listen to us as a podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast tool. If you like video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, RID Journal. I'm Ben Tuine, your host for today's edition. Let's dive in. Today, I have my good friend and colleague as a guest who's going to be talking about this whole dynamic of reducing practice overhead. Is my good friend Naren Arulraja. Naren, great to be with you today.
Hey, Ben, I'm looking forward to today's conversation. It's going to be a fun topic, and let's jump in.
Absolutely. I imagine with all the practices that you work with, this whole topic of overhead is one that probably comes up from time to time, or at least you have a lot of insights on this. So we're looking forward to hearing some of your feedback. As I mentioned in the introduction, that the topic is the one easy step you can take to reduce practice overhead.
Yeah, before we jump into our conversation today, I was just reflecting on the topic about the one easy step to reduce practice overhead. And, at the end of the day, a dental practice becomes the career, the life for a dentist, right? I mean, it's all consuming. I mean, they wake up in the morning, they think about their practice, and then of course go to the office, hire people, manage people, do dentistry, deal with insurance companies, do CE because they have to keep learning, buy technology, then go home, maybe tired, spend a bit of time with your kids, then repeat it all over again.
Right.
And perhaps they have a break during the weekend. So this is a life we are talking about. This is like a 30-year life, a 40-year life we are talking about. And the problem with practice overhead is it defines the quality of life, right? Because it's simple math. If you're making $1 million and your overhead is 80%, you have $200,000 for yourself. And, that's your vacation time, that's your investments in your practices, that's your, savings after you retire, that's how much you can pay your people, right? So the higher that profit is, meaning everything other than overhead is, the more choices you have. I mean, imagine a practice that has 50% overhead. So same $1 million, this doctor is making $500,000, meaning he can now pay his people better. He can buy better technology. He can even take more time off. Right. He can spend more time with his patients because, his life is totally different versus, somebody who's only getting 200,000 in profit is working a lot harder because they're doing a lot more dentistry, which is why their overhead is so high. So they are like busy as busy can be. Their team is not, enjoying dentistry because they're also running in a treadmill, like faster and faster. And the overhead gets higher and higher because expenses go up, but the insurance companies continue to pay you less. So I think it's a really good conversation to really focus on, okay, what can we do to reduce overhead? And I think today's topic, that one easy thing, I think would be a good conversation to have.
I think so. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Naren, that, having discretionary income, it does definitely contribute towards, work-life balance, satisfaction, or at least the fulfillment and being able to have more resources to have more experience in life, right?
Right.
Sometimes we learn things accidentally. I mean, you mentioned that you had a story about a dentist in Virginia that you work with. Do you mind giving us a recap of that story for our listeners and then sort of share your experience about the lesson that was learned from that particular practice?
Absolutely. So this was a doctor, this was going back 2010. So I met her at a conference, and she and I, struck it off. Very nice Southern lady, really friendly, amazing lady, only son, awesome person. Anyways, long marriage, all the values that I believe in, she was an amazing person. And she just became a client and we did what we promised we would do, and which is make the phone ring. And every year the phone started ringing a tiny bit more. And before you know it, by month 18, she's getting like around 40, 50 new patient calls. So before she started with us, she was, this is 2010. So in $2010, she was doing $650,000, give or take, working 4.5, days a week.
Mhm.
Back then, her insurance was, PPO was a only form of marketing. So every single patient there was a PPO patient. And after she started working with us and the phone started ringing, like I said, month 18, she was getting 50 new patient calls. She realized many of these patients didn't ask the question, is it covered by insurance? They were not only doing the bare minimum. They wanted like bigger cases. They wanted like $10,000 worth of dentistry, $5,000 worth of dentistry. And because she had a unique skill set, they appreciated her. And because they found her on her own and not through the PPO plans, they didn't care how much it costs as long as she can take care of their needs. And of course, she's such a kind-hearted, amazingly smart, experienced dentist.
Mhm.
So anyway, so she started working with us, and literally within 4 years, her practice doubled. So she went from making 650 a year to making 1.3 million a year.
Wow.
But the funny thing is, the number of days she started practicing went down to 3.5 days. So I ended up seeing her at the same conference maybe 5 years later, and I'm like, what happened? You're working less, and you're telling me that your business is twice what it used to be.
Mhm.
And she started explaining what happened. She said, as soon as she started getting these new patients, and she realized that they wanted, $5,000-$10,000 cases. They appreciated her skill set. They appreciated everything. She started saying yes to them. Then a problem started happening. She was already working 4.5 days. So she had now had to work 5 days, 6 days,
Mhm.
and she didn't want to do that because, of all that extra work she was doing for years and years and years, it's caught up with her. So she was starting to have some physical issues with dentistry,
Mm.
so she said, okay, I'm going to cut the worst plan, just let me try cutting one plan, the worst one that pays me, 35 cents on the dollar. Why am I even wasting my time? Right.
Right.
Those crazy plans. And then she cut that, and business kept growing, and, and
Yeah.
slowly she didn't have to work extra time. And then she cut the next one and the next one and the next one.
Mhm.
And finally, she ended up cutting every plan except one. And 4 years later, she was doing, 1.3 million and working 1 day less. And she told me her only regret is she didn't do this soon enough, because by the time she did this, her health has already suffered because she was working
Oh.
crazy hours,
Mm.
like tons of dentistry, month after month, year after year for like 20, 25 years. She was, anyways, so a few years after that, she ended up selling the practice, even though it was a much better practice that was worth 3 times more than what it used to be because of, how profitable and how successful it was. But still, she had to give up dentistry, which is a passion. She loved it, but just her physical health wouldn't allow it. So she had to kind of, slowly, stop doing all dentistry. Anyway, so amazing story and
Yeah.
amazing life. And so I think the accidental lesson I learned in all of this is, when you have choices, you don't need to do courageous things. Courage is almost not necessary. She didn't plan on dropping these plans that were paying her peanuts or pennies.
Mhm.
It was almost forced on her because she couldn't keep up with the demand from people who didn't care about insurance. So she just said, okay, I'll drop it, because why do I want to work for 30 cents on the dollar when I have 50 other people who are willing to pay me the entire dollar, and give
Right.
me big checks. So I think that's a good thing that I have learned and internalized in my life since then. Like I try to put myself in offensive positions where I don't have to be courageous. I can just, like, courage is no longer required because I have options. I mean, it's like, you have
Yeah.
options, right? Everybody knows
Mhm.
you, Ben. So when you want to do something different or new, you don't have to start from scratch. But all that work you did and the options you created yourself is what allows you to, be in that position.
I like that. That's actually a pretty amazing lesson. You can't do the courageous thing and drop PPO plans till almost as if until you're in a strong place, right? So when
Yeah,
you
I
put
know
your,
it's, as
yeah,
outsiders, we can preach all day long about, oh, drop that PPO plan and whatnot. But when you are the one in it and you don't have options, you don't have a lot of new patients calling you, you won't have the guts to do it. I mean, I'm not saying you, but a lot of doctors don't, because it's like,
right.
then what do I do, right? Like, yeah, I'm getting paid pennies on the dollar, but it's still better than getting paid nothing. So I'll still take it,
I, I like what you said there, that, you know, you're almost forced. Well, this doctor was almost forced into that position, right? Where the courage wasn't actually part of the equation, where she was getting busier and busier and busier. And then naturally, she felt like she needed to drop PPO plans where, you know, unlike some situations where doctors feel like they need to build that courage to drop insurance, for this particular client of yours, it just came naturally to where dropping insurance became a necessity. Do you mind, you know, providing a little bit more thought on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And she said, I mean, she and her husband, I met both of them. They're wonderful people, Southern people, you know, born and brought up in that part of the country, Virginia, awesome people. Um, and I guess she talks to her husband about everything. And he said, you know, you have nothing to lose. You're telling me that you have all these patients who want, you know, comprehensive care, that they're willing to pay 100% on the day they come and see you. And then you have all these other patients who you're getting paid 40 cents on the dollar, 45 cents on the dollar. And they don't really want comprehensive care. They want patchwork dentistry, which you hate anyways.
Mhm.
So what do you got to lose? I mean, if you didn't have these 40 other patients waiting for comprehensive care, then yeah, then you really have to, you have to be courageous. Here, like, there's no courage required. The only thing is, if you want to keep both of them happy, now you have to work 6 days. And no, that's not a yes from me. Like, I'm not going to say yes to you working six days, or, you know, so it became easy for her, almost like, yeah, I'm not going to work 6 days. I mean, 4.5 days was taxing for me as is, because she's not the kind of person who slacks off. When she goes, she works the whole day, no break, just goes, right? So,
Mm. No,
um,
that's
and so
awesome.
it really, you know, helped her. And I think, like, yeah, she didn't need to have courage. And it's kind of funny though, it kind of dawned on me, even for our clients, instead of trying to tell them to be courageous, why not help them not even have the need to be courageous, which means help them get new patients who are willing to pay full fee, and then you don't have to be courageous.
Absolutely. And I can see how that would work from an overhead reduction perspective for this example. You know, doctor working 4 days, making what you said, 600,000, and then
650.
650, and then getting back to 3 days and doing 1.3 million. Right?
Right, right.
It's like, naturally, you know, one less day that you have to be in the practice. How does that not help reduce the overhead in the practice significantly when you're looking at numbers from that perspective? But
Yeah, because she didn't have to hire more people, because they're doing
yep.
less dentistry. Like you said, they're working less. Team was happier
Yeah.
because they're getting paid full salary for 1 day's less work. I mean, they were
Mhm.
overjoyed. And to be honest, these patients who wanted comprehensive care, they were a joy to work with. Because they have been dying to find someone like her. She was a person who was, you know, part of holistic dentistry movement. And, you know, so a lot of people really care about materials and stuff. And she was an expert in all of that, the materials you used and so forth. So they were like dying to come in. Like, these people, only thing they didn't know that she even existed,
Yeah,
because she didn't really do any marketing, so they couldn't even discover her. So it was like
right.
a match made in heaven. It's like everyone loved it. And I think the fact that she was a specialized practice helped, because what happens in a typical practice is the team doesn't realize that the world is changing because of marketing. So
Mhm.
they still ask the question, what insurance do you have, right? If that's the very first question the team member asks, everything goes south from there. It's all about like what's covered by insurance, what's not covered. Because these people had that holistic mindset, and the patients were asking, you know, about holistic, they just got them in. It's almost like they didn't even need any training. But so only one caveat I would add is, if you are not a specialized practice that has a unique capability that many people in your neighborhood don't, you need to train your team. They can't start the interview with, hey, what insurance do you have? Because if you ask the same question that you used to ask when you're struggling, even though the outside world has changed, you will still continue to struggle. It's like, you know, somebody who has been in jail all their life, they don't know how to adapt to the outside world. You know, they're just so caught up in the way. So make sure that your training is aligned, so your team kind of changes, you know, with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you know, so it sounds like here the key in terms of this whole idea of reducing overhead in the practice for this particular example is that this doctor found a way to significantly increase and boost reputation in the community through very unique marketing strategies that naturally allowed her to cut out those write-offs with in-network PPO agreements. So Naren, if listeners want to put themselves in this position of strength, this massive position of strength, and want to strengthen their marketing, where do you think they should start?
Yeah, so I think what she did was what we did for her was we just got her to rank for like 400 different keywords on page 1 of Google, meaning very top of Google. So of course, a lot of those specialized keywords around holistic materials, biomimetic, all those things that she was really good at, plus all the comprehensive care like sedation and all the different things she did, like, Invisalign and so forth. We started ranking for those keywords. So pretty much she kept showing up again and again in this very big city and lots of competition, but she was like dominating it. So she got to pick the best patients who were out there. Of course, the reviews were great. They loved her once they came in. So that helped a lot. Even in those days when Google reviews was not as big as it is now, she paid attention to what people had to say about her, and that really helped. So I think, put yourself in a position of strength, dominate Google, and of course, work on your reputation. Those two things is what I would recommend that clients do if they want to, put themselves in that strong position.
That's awesome. And I would also even throw out there that, the marketing strategy meeting that Equa provide is probably going to be your best bet in terms of assessing your own situation, just to see how your marketing strategy is working now, but also to help strengthen that marketing to the extent where, your case can be very much similar to this doctor in Virginia, 4 years later, working a day less, but making 2 times more in overall revenue for the practice. So for this marketing strategy meeting, what I recommend is to go to ridjournal.com/MSM. Again, ridjournal.com/MSM. And again, MSM stands for Marketing Strategy Meeting. Naren, gosh, you're a wealth of knowledge. You're like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to all things marketing, and as well as this unique spin on one easy step you can take to reduce practice overhead. I think you hit the nail on the head here. So thank you so much for all of your insight. And of course, we most certainly look forward to the next episode where we have the privilege of picking your brain.
Thank you so much, Ben.
It's been our pleasure and our privilege. If you love what we do here at ridjournal.com, tell your friends and share a review on iTunes or YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you are a dental speaker or leader in a dental organization, don't forget to check out ridexperts.org. Till we meet again, I'm your host, Ben Tuine.